this past week, Aaron's attorney, Todd Peterson, filed a basically, and once again, guys, this is different than a lot of places. He filed what was called a request for continuance, but he did it through a letter. And I know we talk about, especially when we see these East Coast cases where you do things through letters. This is apparently how you do it in Minnesota, is through letter. But anyways, he sent the judge and said, hey, look, judge, I'm going to be out of town. We have something scheduled for sentencing on October 2nd. Unfortunately, a scheduling conflict arisen. I'll be out of the country and visiting my son at that time. And he says, I became aware this hearing date was not on my calendar. I respectfully request a brief continuance. And you know what? I know people were kind of like talking shit about him. Like, shit happens, man. Like it's like any other job. Things don't get marked down. Things don't get penciled in. Attorneys miscalendar things. Courts don't send out notices. I mean, this is not uncommon. It's pretty normal, actually. Pretty normal. These kind of things happen. The past 3 weeks, I've had 3 separate hearings where I never got a notice officially for it. And one time the court's they called me and they're like, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm at home. What's going on? And they said, oh, you could hear the bailiff and they're going like, oh shit. She said oh shit, we never gave you a notice. And I'm like, so what's going on? And they told me what the case was. I was like, oh, okay, well, and I talked to the judge over the phone and we took care of it. But yeah, they didn't send out a notice. Happens. No big deal. Well, Aaron's attorney asked for a continuance to reset it. The prosecutor comes in and says, no, we can't do that. Prosecutor gets all fired up about it. And they object to pushing the sentencing date out further. The defendant pled guilty in April. Sentencing was initially set for June, but was continued at the defendant's request. The October sentencing date has been known to everybody for several months. The victim in the case deserves closure. Yes, Nick deserves closure. Nick really deserves closure. And therefore, the state would object to push the sentencing date out any further than it already has been. And some of you might say, wait, Kayla's the victim. It's like, yeah, yeah, sure. But they object to pushing it out any further. And they say it's the state's understanding the defense is available Monday or Tuesday next week. The state would request it be moved up versus pushing it out further. So what happened? Well, the court's like, that's a good point. So you know what we're doing? We're just going to do it on the 30th at 11:30. We're going to do it on the 30th at 11:30. That's the game plan here. And you know what? I've had that happen before where the court's like, you know what? One side or another wants to continue. And the court's like, we looked at our calendar and you guys are already going to be here for different cases. So just come on in. Or the prosecutor and, you want to work something out. It's like, no, we'll pick a different day and we'll do it ahead of early time. So it's September 30th at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. It's a sentencing. Now, here's the difference, though. This is going to be, this is in person here. This is not a Zoom thing on here. So, yeah. Now, does that mean they're going to jail Aaron? Who really knows what's going to happen? He could face up to 364 days of jail time. We don't really know. But chat, in case you guys were wondering, is an option out there. If you want to support Steel Toe Morning Show, you can always do Streamlabs, PayPal, Venmo, or you can go to Inmate Canteen. Should Aaron actually get incarcerated, you can go to inmatecanteen.com. And that is where you can submit commissary to Aaron if he becomes a guest at the Stearns County Justice Center. If you guys want to help him out, that's where it can go. Don't do JPay. Don't do Securus. If you're familiar with those, that's not what apparently the jail uses. I Googled it earlier. They use a different organization. But you guys can get Aaron shower shoes. You can get them, You guys can have support competitions. How many Aaron will come back out and he'll be like, he'll have his board up in the background and he'll mark it out by honey buns and not dollar amounts. Somebody donated a pair of shower shoes. Thank you. Can you give him Trojans? No, but you can help him with commissary so he doesn't have to pay rent when he's on the tier. Well, he's going to have to pay rent on the tiers, but you can help him pay rent without having to spend his ass. Now, that said, guys, what's going to happen, Aaron? We don't actually know. We don't know what's going to happen at this point. Is he going to go to jail? We really don't know at this point. I'd like to think he won't. I'd like to think he won't. I mean, especially at this point, because some things have happened. Some things have happened. And one of the unique things that got submitted in Aaron's case here came out today from Todd Peterson. And guess what he did? He said, "Hey, Judge, and everybody involved, look at what we've had to deal with." So we attached all the documents from the HRO case. And it's funny. I remember earlier, telling somebody you shouldn't be involved in around with people's cases because it can hurt your loved ones who you think have a case. And yeah, this, harassing the defendant in a case your loved one is a victim on, it's never a good look to a court. It doesn't look good. So, is it going to hurt ultimately? Maybe not. I don't know. But I can tell you from my experience as an attorney, being a defense attorney, and also as an assistant prosecutor, I didn't have time for shit like that. I couldn't stand when that would happen. Oh, he's the bad man and you won't leave him the alone. Well, you. So just something to think about, We'll see what happens. But the HRO itself ended up getting submitted. And, this is the ex parte order that got granted. And, this is just, once again, it's, what will the court make of it? I don't know. Maybe they'll make something of it. Maybe they won't. But it's a lot better if this thing didn't exist. It would be so much better for Nick and Kayla if this didn't exist. Because on the best outcome for them, the judge disregards it. Any other scenario where the judge gives it some credence is bad. If they want Aaron to go live on the tiers for the better part of a year. Once again, you're yourself here a little bit. So they point out that this is the ex parte order from the judge, and there's an immediate and present danger of harassment. So, yeah, it looks bad when another judge is like, yeah, the victims are around with the defendant here. And they talk about being followed, uninvited visits, harassing phone calls, threats, frightening petitioner, calling names, all kinds of stuff, using social media to harass. So, yeah, getting the ex parte granted, being told, leave him alone. And it doesn't look good at the end of the day when it's signed by the judge. It's not a good look. Is it fatal? No. But once again, you don't want to be a retard and have to deal with it. And Jim says, or the judge thinks Aaron's for his victims. It's possible. It's possible. Like I said, could it hurt Aaron? Sure. But it could also hurt Nick really, really bad. And if an independent judge has already evaluated it, it's not as though this was filed and it got denied. If that got denied, yeah, Aaron be in deep shit. But the fact it was granted as an ex parte and the hearings are in the process, I'm inclined to say the judge might say, okay, well, there must be a little bit of there. The judge isn't going to be thrilled that the victim's family is around with the defendant at the end of the day. That's never a good look. You don't ever want that look. Just that's free legal advice, chat. Free legal advice for you out there. If somebody is a bad man and he does something bad to you, leave him the alone. You don't help things by working with him. Can you guys get Aaron a cuck chair into the jail? No. And you can't buy him you can't use the commissary money to buy, to get a cuck fridge sent in for Aaron. You can't do any of that. None of that works. But just remember, chat, Streamlabs, PayPal, Venmo, inmatecanteen.com. Just keep that in mind. Be prepared. Yes, because he ate Nick's goo. Can we get Aaron mouthwash? You got to be careful because they won't let you bring in stuff that's got out. You can't buy commissary. It's got alcohol in it, so it's gonna have to be special stuff. You're gonna have to get him pop. Probably he's gonna have to wash his mouth out with soda. That's the thing. Stonies will do a benefit for Aaron. They're gonna do like a poker run for Aaron. The Steel Toe Morning Show commissary poker run. How many days in a row will Aaron hit the goal with the commissary? Yes. Can you send Aaron Twister to play with his cellmate? No. It doesn't work like that. Can he stream from jail? Yes, that'll be great. Johnny holds up the phone to the mic. It's like, You have a correct call from Aaron, an inmate at the Stearns County Jail. To accept this call, press 1. Boop. In other news, guys, there is an update in the HRO case. Apparently, they're having a status conference on the 2nd. It looks like from what it sounds like Melton was saying, that there's going to be a status conference, and the court's like, what are we doing? What's our timetable here? What are we setting? So we don't actually have a new date yet. It sounds like they're going to try to establish a date here next Friday to do it. So that's kind of the story there. They just can't quit each other, and it feels like that's never going to happen. So